Well, sorry about that. I had a little trouble getting started here. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the 802 Cup Series podcast. This is all about the 802 Cup Series on iRacing. If you want some information on the league, you can look us up on Facebook under the 802 Racing League Series page, as well as the tab under iRacing. We are also on iRacing Leagues. We're still doing some recruiting out there. So tonight we've got a pretty interesting show here tonight. We're going to basically, the way the podcast works for the 802 Cup Series League is each week we'll come on. Tonight is Wednesday night. Next week is going to be Tuesday night, so we have a little bit more time to prepare next week. And start out with a review of the current race that we just finished. This, of course, will be Nashville. Then we'll talk about the upcoming race this week for Dover, for track settings, information, fuel settings, and such like that, time of day, weather at the track, and then we'll go over standings and results from the prior week. And on occasion, we'll have a guest. And tonight we do have a guest. It's Mike Fish from the Joe Sixpack Racing team. He's one of my teammates. And he's got some explaining to do out there. You see, he usually does really well, and every highest finisher in our league each week gets $5 in racing credits. So he's gonna have to explain how he started second on the grid and then ended up kind of back where the rest of us finish. So, like I said, each week we'll have a review of the last race data, top finishers, point standings, and more. Preview of the upcoming race, track weather, car setups, lap counts for the race, and comp caution information. Then guest segment, league news, upcoming things, rules, updates, etc., like that. Want to give a shout out to Carrie Shaver, the driver of car number 18, who is sponsoring the Rookie of the Year award at the end of the year. The Rookie of the Year is who's a driver who's been with us for the first season, will be awarded $30 at the end of the season, and a regular race sponsor every week, Jeff Barefoot. Thank you for having Riptide Radio sponsor each week. So let's go to the Nashville preview. Nashville was on November 8th, and the average lap time for that race was 34.523 seconds. We had a full 100-lap race. Only two cautions. One of those included the comp caution at lap 30. And it was a good, clean race, and I think we were done in just about an hour. There were only 6 laps under caution. I've been in some leagues, even our league, Joe Sixpack Racing, a couple of years ago, you'd have like 18 to 20% of the race under caution. This time it was only 6 laps. Average strength of field this week was 1546, and there were 7 lead changes. So now I'd like to introduce our guest, Mike Fish from Joe Sixpack Racing. He's our driver number 20. He's currently 7th in points. Mike, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing, Greg?
Not too bad. So we're going to get into the race a little bit here. And
are you sure you want to?
Yeah, why not? You know, I mean, I finished 18th. Okay, so don't feel bad. I try to finish at least top 15, but at least I finished ahead of where I started. I think I qualified at P20. I ended up finishing P18. Found Nashville to be an interesting track, but kind of hard to pass, and a lot of tire damage on there. So let's get into Nashville here. So we have the starting grid for Nashville. Pole sitter was Brandon Redford, and he gets a point for sitting on the pole. Mike Fish, number 20, was P2. P3 was Kenny Reel. Nick Larson was P4. Frank Zingen was P5. Brandon Guerin was P6. Cole Jarrett, P7. Jason Wiley, P8. 9th was Dave Lamaga. 10th, Johnny Barker. 11th, Larry Murphy. And number 1 car, Art Greco, was number 12. And now we're looking at the top finishers, and Mike, you're nowhere on there. Can you explain what happened during the race? Because I know on Race Chat every week on our race channel, you are always talking about how you're driving and when the tires start wearing out and giving us suggestions to the rest of the team on what you're going to change and, of course, when we're going to do pits. So you
Mhm.
led pretty much 23 of the first 25 or so laps.
Mhm.
What happened when you went into the pits at the comp caution on lap 30, where you started having problems right away after the green flag, and pretty soon it seemed like you were saying you were plowing snow on every turn?
Actually, it started after like lap 17 or so. I just couldn't get the car to turn on the longer run because I'm trying to figure out how to not burn the right front off as I go, and it just I don't know. I don't know what happened. It's just when I got in traffic, it was impossible for me to just run on old
Gotcha.
tires on top of it. But I mean, I'm still learning. It's going to be a learning process as I
Yep.
go. But it was really frustrating for sure because I had a top five car and I somehow finished 15th with it. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, you're a P
And
two.
everyone's saying I choked. I'm just like, what? What else could have I done?
Well, we got to get that in there because on the Joe Sixpack Racing Team, our Discord and the race channel, we're usually pretty hard on each other, but it's all in good fun. Now, I remember you saying I didn't get a chance to do any practices before the race, but I do remember you saying um, as the that you were having a little bit of a difficult time on long runs. Is that something you have every race, or is just something that popped up here at Nashville because we only had that one caution and the comp caution?
I mean, I think about it now, and I think I've struggled on the longer run before. I didn't really struggle at Homestead or Michigan
Hmm.
or Charlotte. Well, never mind. Come to think about it, I think this is the first time I've really struggled
Yeah, it
that bad
is.
on a long run. I think it's just the track. That track's garbage.
it,
I cannot stand it.
it was a strange track. Because pretty much going into turn 1 and 4, everything else was just a long, gentle arc. But what I noticed,
Hmm.
and which I everybody says, "Oh, my friends say you know a lot about racing." I says, "Well, no, I don't. I used to know all the numbers of the cars and the drivers in the Cup Series a few years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, and then they started trading teams, and now I don't know anybody." I said, "What I know is I love the smell of racing fuel and watching cars go fast. Other than that, when I'm watching IMSA, I can't tell a prototype from a GT3 from a Daytona." So
Hmm.
um, the only thing I found, of course, was the tires wearing out fast, and I just found turn one. If you took that apex too early, you just drifted up into the wall. You had some issues hitting the
Hmm.
wall around the middle of the race, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. And for some reason, no matter what I did, I changed the brake bias, I changed everything, and
Yes.
it just wasn't helping. And I think it's just the lack of experience as well
Yeah.
on Nashville.
Sure.
It's actually the hardest track I've ran this season, other than Watkins Glen, but I didn't run that race because I was pretty sick. But
Yeah.
other than that, that's the hardest track I've ran all year.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
I
you,
thought Homestead was going to be the hardest track, but clearly that wasn't the case. So
yeah. Well, you've got somebody on here giving you some sympathy. It's first time chat I 802 iRacing, and he says, "Mike, you didn't choke. It's a tough track on tires." So
oh, absolutely.
someone out there is sending you. Let's
I got
talk.
one supporter.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about the $5 racing credits this week. You might get $3.12 after that performance. Oh, I had to get that one in there. Well, you're relatively new to iRacing, aren't you?
Yeah, I started back in late July, early August, and I've been playing console racing games all my life, and that could contribute to why I'm not terrible,
Yeah.
but I think it does help
Hmm.
because I don't know. I don't know helps, but I guess it's just I have a lot of experience and knowledge with racing. It's just
Yeah.
developing the racecraft behind the wheel and pedals is kind of it takes time, and
Oh, it does. It takes a
it's
lot
going
of
to be a
time.
while before I can maybe run up front with Rob and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
hopefully I can. I've ran up front with him before. It's just I gotta pull it all together and have a perfect race.
Gotcha. How many? Well, let's get back to your racing experience a little bit. Before you were doing console racing, what experience did you have racing? Have you ever raced anything live, whether it be a go kart or a tricycle? What's your racing experience?
Nothing really, to be honest with you.
Ah,
Nothing.
so
Haven't raced anything.
when did you get interested in racing to get the console and
Um,
then get onto
when I
iRacing?
was 5 years old
Hmm.
in 2008, my first race that I watched, I think that I remember, was the 2008 Food City 500 at Bristol.
Yeah.
And this is actually how I became a Jimmy McMurray fan. I saw his car and I saw a purple and white car, and I'm just
Yep.
like, dude, that looks amazing. So,
Yeah.
and fun fact, that's actually how my favorite color, purple, became
Oh, no kidding.
a thing. So, yeah,
Ah, my,
it's
it
crazy.
was one of my favorite colors when I was like 5 years old or 12 or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, since then, I've been in love with the sport, and I continue to support it and watch it weekly.
Yep. And you said the closest track here to is Kansas?
Kansas and Gateway that are on the Cup schedule. Yes.
Ah, okay. And have you ever been to a race in person?
No, never have. Just never got around to it. I lived in Florida for 17 and a half years, and Daytona was like 2, 3 hours away, and never went as a kid, which is unfortunate, but
Yep.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
So
Can't cry over spilled milk, right?
yeah, exactly.
That's on our bucket list. We've been to I've been to maybe 6 or 7 tracks further south of Charlotte. Hit both of them in Virginia. Been to Dover. Haven't been to Pocono because Pocono is like it's in the armpit of New Jersey, and
Mm.
there's a lot of those old rundown bungalow colonies around there. So I haven't been there. Where else have we been? Watkins Glen and up in Loudon, and I'm about less than an hour from Lime Rock Park. So I get over there. I work a couple of their major events over there. So
Oh wow.
that's my experience. I used to watch years ago, back in the '70s, when there was this thing on TV called Wide World of Sports. It was like an ESPN, but it was only on for an hour on Saturday afternoons. So that's when I got into racing. Then kind of drifted away from it for a long time. Got married, had some kids, and then my youngest started getting into dirt racing. So we were hanging out at dirt tracks, and I'm a photographer. He took up photography, and now he photographs for NASCAR, IMSA, and New England Motorcycle Road Racing. So, like I was telling you before we went on the air, if I want to walk pit road during any of the races at Watkins Glen, it costs me like $500 for the hot pass. All he's got to do is puts on his little media jacket there, and he walks right in and starts taking pictures, talking to all the drivers. So I'm going to beat him up one of these days. He's got to get me in there. All right, so we're gonna go over the Nashville top finishers here for a moment. On the podium, first place was Rob Lowell, card number 21. He led 57 laps. His average lap time was 34.523 seconds. Second was Kenny Reed, number 22, and he finished about 5.5 seconds back. He led 9 laps. Larry Murphy finished third. Car number 30 finished about 6.3 seconds back. Average lap speed 34.586. Didn't lead any laps. Fourth place, Johnny Barker. Finished about just under 8 seconds back. Had a 34.6 average speed. Fifth place, Brandon Gerard. The number 4 car was just about 8 seconds back. He led 3 laps. Sixth place was Cole Jarrett. He finished just over 10 seconds back, led 3 laps, 34.627 was his average speed. Number 8 was David Lamaga, car number 28. He started ninth, finished eighth, so jumped up a point there. and he finished, let me see, with about 13.5 seconds back. His average speed was 34.658 seconds per lap. Frank Zingen finished ninth. He's car number 62. Started fifth. Finished 13.656 seconds back. He led 2 laps and also pretty close with an average lap speed with a bunch of other guys right there at about 34.660 seconds. And rounding out the top 10 is Jason Wiley, car number 13. Started 8th, finished 20 seconds back, did not lead any laps, and his average speed was 34.724. Those are some pretty good average speeds there, especially considering there were no cautions. I think my fastest lap was like 34.5, and I think knowing me the way I drive, I probably averaged about an hour and a half on each lap or 90 seconds, something like that. So Mike, I got to get this in here one more time. There, where did you end up finishing?
I won the race. I did one hell of a burnout.
I see
And
that.
it was a lot of fun.
Oh, so you ended up driving so fast you finished 3 laps early, so you got disqualified.
Oh yeah, I had a rocket ship at the end there.
Okay.
I set the fastest lap. I
Yes,
think that
you
counts
did
for
that.
something.
Yes, you did. Except under ARCA rules, you don't get a point for that. But you did pick up a point for leading several laps. Rob got a point for leading a lap, and I think he got the point for leading the most laps. And whoever was the pole sitter, he got a point there for finishing number one. So, going back over the race, did you come up with any one thing that, except for lack of experience on the track, that caused you to have problems on the long runs there?
I'll be honest. I don't know. It could be just driving style because I ran good on Homestead. I ran decent at Michigan. Was in position to win there. Was in contention at Charlotte. Only at the end, I kind of ran top, a little bit outside top 5, top 10 the whole race. I think it's just the driving style of that track. It just doesn't suit me very well, and I don't think Dover really suits me either, which is unfortunate because I've been running a lot of laps at Dover recently. But I don't know. I guess it's just a driver's track, as they always say.
Yeah, the thing I found interesting about Dover when I was there, the whole track is banked, and I found that kind of strange. Because we got a chance to get out there and walk on the track. Because I didn't have to pay for hot passes for that one. Somehow, a former friend of mine who was going to pay me for his ticket for Loudon never did. After I even brought him to Watkins Glen camping twice, bought him a hot pass this year, and then his wife decides to go on vacation at same week we go to Charlotte. So as you can see, I'm a little bit pissed off at this guy, but he's not in our league. He lives down the street, and I drive by the house and I flip him the bird every now and then. So we got out on the track at Dover, and I was perplexed to see that whole track is banked. I don't know what it is on the straights, but it's pretty steep. So anything you're going to try to do a little bit different this week on Dover to get back to where you were for the first 5 or 6 races of the season?
Probably just run more practice laps and just get a feeling for the track and see if I can get in a rhythm. And just see where the tires are going to fall off and see, how bad the car is going to push.
Gotcha.
Like it did in Nashville.
Yep. Now, during the racing and stuff like that, do you talk to anybody else for ideas and tips, or you kind of like me alone, or trying to find it out for yourself?
See, I've never really asked anybody for tips or anything like that. I kind of watch replays and stuff like that and see how the top guys are running and try and replicate that. That's kind of what I tried to do in Nashville. I tried to watch a couple drivers and see where their braking points were and when they got back on the throttle and stuff like that. I tried it.
Gotcha.
And I guess I just wore the tires out a little too much.
Yeah.
And I just fell like a rock. I mean,
wore out like crazy.
Brandon did the same thing. We both fell off really bad, but he was able to stay in the top 10, and I just fell even further than he did. So,
Got it.
but I mean, I'm gonna I'm gonna try and watch more video and everything like that, and just try and correct some mistakes. I'm probably gonna do a couple of AI races as well. That actually does help out a lot because you're
Yes.
racing against competition
Yep.
somewhat.
I love racing
So
against AI. Every once in a while, when I don't do good in the race, I'll put on AI and make sure I'm the best driver on the track. So I put everybody else in like D class or whatever.
there you go.
Yeah, but you don't learn too much that way. All right, let's take a look at Dover preview for race day coming up this Sunday on 11:15. And once again, a big shout out and thanks to Mr. Barefoot and Riptide Radio for supporting the league and giving out a prize every week to a random driver. So we'll be racing on Sunday, 11:15, and the car setup's 75% fuel. 3 tire changes like usual, 2 quick fixes, and the weather will be partly cloudy. It's an afternoon start at 2:54 p.m. The temperature will be 78 degrees and 55% humidity. The only thing I couldn't get a picture of too, was the wind speed. But if you go to our league and you check out the upcoming racer this weekend, you'll find out all that information there as well. Now, the other thing about this upcoming week is it's one of our more popular, and I say more popular because back in the old league, we did this series called Toontown. It's a theme week, and we usually ended up getting a ton of viewers that week, and also the broadcasters had a blast with it. And occasionally, someone would throw up a prize, and we'd let the broadcaster pick the winning paint scheme. So here's a couple of the schemes you can see right here. The driver, the number 22, is doing Rugrats, and we had somebody that used to do that before. Car number 121 is SpongeBob. Car number 47 is a Sesame Street scheme. So now I don't feel bad because I was joking around that I put up on our team Discord my paint scheme of Teletubbies. And if there's somebody running Sesame Street, I'm going to run Teletubbies this weekend. And then there's the car 62 there. I can't quite see what his scheme is but really good paint jobs there. So it's the Toontown 160 coming up this week for the 802 Cup Series. And that will be Sunday afternoon. And jump back here a little bit. And 3 tire changes, 75% fuel. And I believe, if I'm right, if it's a 160 lap race, comp caution will be about lap 48, 30% mark. If I'm wrong, please correct me. And once again, the weather for Dover for the Toontown 160 is partly cloudy. Afternoon start at 2:54, 78 degrees it looks like, and 55% humidity. And that's going to wrap it up for this first edition of the 802 Cup Series podcast. My guest this week has been Mike Fish. He's the driver of the car number 20 for the Joe Six Pack Racing Team. And currently he's on the points bubble. We got a couple more weeks left before we get into playoff season. So hopefully we can push Mike to the front somehow. Because if he's driving with us, he's not driving up front. Let's put it that way. And our new team member this week, Charlie Dickey, he's going to try to come on next week and be the guest. He's got some pretty good tips there, and he kind of apologized for racing bad this week. And me, I was happy with the race. I'm happy that I finished without getting any incident points, and nobody wrecked me. So that was a really good race. So once again, this has been the 802 Cup Series podcast. A big shout out to Riptide Radio for sponsoring every week and throwing some cash in there to a random driver. And Extreme Sim TV is our broadcaster, and he's getting a new graphics card this week, we hear. So that should make the show even better than it is right now. And 2 weeks from tomorrow night is the next roller derby. That's something I sponsor under the Joe Sixpack label. It's the No Rules Roller Derby this week. This one will be Gander Trucks at Bristol on the dirt. It's a 30-minute race with no rules. except you can't drive backwards. You will get black flags for that, speeding on pit road, et cetera, et cetera. But other than that, when we usually race, our motto is race like you want to be raced. This one is wreck like you want to be wrecked. And that's going to be Thursday, July 26th, 8 p.m. under hosted, first come, first serve. We've upped the field, I think, from 30 to trying to go to about 35 trucks. The first one a couple of weeks ago back at Lernerville with the well and modifieds was a blast, and the winner there got $100. And this time we're increasing the prize pool. First prize still gets $100, second is 50, and third is 25. So that's the No Rules Roller Derby, Bristol Dirt, Thursday, January 26th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, under hosted on iRacing. And again, if you want to find out more about the 802 Cup Series or the 802 Racing Leagues, I think they do a dirt series as well. You can look us up on Facebook under 802 Cup Series or 802 Racing Leagues. Also, if you want to join the league, we are still recruiting. Just go to iRacing, look up leagues, and then check out the 802 Cup Series. We run next gen cars, fixed sets. I want to say it's a 17-week, 17 race season. We take off a couple weeks for New Year's, a couple weeks for Daytona this year. And up for discussion among the admins is what we're going to do for a summer league, because in the past we always took the summer off, but we ended up doing something anyway. So again, Mike Fish, thank you for being on tonight, and we hope to see you finishing up there closer to the front so you can get some wiggle room there and not be on the cut line until the end of the season, and so you can bring it home for Joe Six-Pack Racing Team. Thanks for being on tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
All right, good night. Once again, it's the 802 Cup Series podcast. Next week will be on Tuesday night, January 17th. It says PM ET, but that's 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'm your host, Greg Dreiss. And you can catch this live right now on twitch.tv/Greg Dreiss. It will also be there for the next 2 weeks. Later on, it'll be uploaded to YouTube. And tomorrow, we'll be throwing the audio up on Spotify and Amazon Podcasts, Anchor Podcast, Google Podcast, and about 24 other big-time and small-time podcast platforms. Once again, for the 802 Cup Series on iRacing, I'm Greg Dreiss. Thanks for being here tonight, and we'll see you next week.